As an off-election year, none of the state legislative seats are up this year, and the same goes for the statewide races. Also, congressional races save a handful of special elections that we've discussed here before. However, in September, a different kind of election will take place. Democrats and Republicans will have to choose who they want, respectively, to lead their state parties. For Republicans, Chairman Ed Cox has been publicly criticized by some of his members, leaving many to speculate that his re-election bid will be challenged. My next guest has been named as a potential successor. He is Chautauqua County Executive Greg Edwards, and as you recall, he was the 2010 Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor. County Executive, it is good to see you. How are you doing?
Liz, it's great to be with you here again today. Thanks for asking me on.
It's my pleasure. So, as I mentioned, you have been floated as a potential candidate for state GOP chairman. You and I spoke about this briefly. You are, in fact, considering it. Is that right?
Well, I would say to you that what I'm doing right now is my due diligence. Anytime anybody presents a business opportunity to me, I do just that. I analyze the facts, I analyze the landscape, and then make an informed decision from that. And over the course of the last 6 months or so, people periodically have come up to me and asked me to consider taking on that sort of role. And I thanked them for that interest and focused on being county executive and doing the types of work that need to take place right here locally. But about a month ago, a group came together and made a very compelling argument that asked me to consider taking on the role of state chairman, implementing some of the many changes that need to take place, and carrying the Republican message across the state as chairman. So they made a very compelling argument. They made some points that were worthy of investigation, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now, talking to leaders across the state, elected officials, local party folks, and people whose opinions I trust and respect, and that's what's happening right now.
Do you think that the party, as it is currently organized and governed by Ed Cox, is actually not well run?
I don't know whether it's not well run or not, but I think there's races we absolutely should have won at the statewide level last time. I also think that the numbers, and that's the numbers of Republicans who are registered Republicans, has been going down. I think that speaks to a change in focus that needs to take place. And being from a county organization, I understand that there's needs at the county level that the state committee can fulfill. And I think, as in all organizations, there's room for improvement. And that's really what I'm looking at right now. Are the improvements that are needed, are the steps that need to be taken, am I the right person to implement those?
Yeah.
And those are some of the questions I've been asking folks I've been speaking with.
Yeah, you know, there's a couple of things here. First of all, that idea that there were statewide posts that the Republicans should have won, it's obviously not the first time we've heard that. And, you know, a lot of people thought that the reason, for example, you didn't win that state controller race with Harry Wilson is because Carl Palladino was on the ballot. He was your running mate. I mean, do you believe it was because of Carl Palladino that some of those lower races, Dan Donovan for AG, for example, and Harry Wilson for controller, were not won? Or it was because of Ed Cox and the way that the party handled those races?
I think there's always room for improvement and analysis that needs to take place on every race, whether it's a win or a loss. But the fundamental fact is and was that Harry Wilson was precisely the type of person you'd want to step up to be our next controller. You couldn't create a better resume, a better proven deliverable than Harry with regard to his capacity as controller. Same thing with Dan Donovan. I mean, you could not create a better resume, a better deliverable for Attorney General than Dan Donovan. And I think that it was a failure for the people of New York State that those two gentlemen didn't win, just because of the quality with which they led their professional lives and what they could have done for us on a statewide level. So there were obviously mistakes made and opportunities missed, and the issue is identifying those, solving some of those things, and moving forward. I do not believe that Carl Palladino was the reason that those two gentlemen didn't win their race. I think that it had a multitude of other issues that impacted on those. So everything has its role, but absolutely something was wrong that those two gentlemen didn't win those seats, and that's certainly place a person could look for improvement.
So other issues like what, for example? Like, had your original running mate, Rick Lazio, the former congressman who Ed Cox didn't want actually on the ballot and tried to get off the ballot with Steve Levy, a Democrat turned Republican, fellow county executive of yours from down on Long Island, had he not done that, do you think that maybe there would have been more resources and time to put on to those other races?
Well, it's easy to be an armchair quarterback, you
Sure.
know, and the temptation certainly is to bring your own viewpoint and your own after-the-fact analysis. But there was a lack of clarity about what the Republican principles were going to be going into these races. There was a lack of clarity when these candidates were in a position to deliver their messages to the county committees, where your energy really gets developed. Primaries can be good, I guess, but in many cases they absorb resources, revenue, and focus early on in a campaign that need to be pushed elsewhere. And the key is getting the right candidates at the right time and supporting them across the board. And there's opportunities there to do a better job along those lines. But really, it's going forward that has to be the focus. And there are clear opportunities for the Republican Party to take our message, which is the right message, to take our approach, which is the right approach, fiscal conservatism, really controlling the growth and spending that is attached to government, really taking a look at what programs work and what they don't, and making the tough decisions to eliminate those that do not work. That's the message that needs to be out there. That's the proven winning strategy to government. And that's what we need to be focused on, not some of these other things.
Well, in order to support candidates, of course, you need money, and the state GOP hasn't actually managed to raise a whole heck of a lot, and at least not as much as Ed Cox said that he would be able to raise when he was running for chairman. You are an upstate guy, obviously. The money's mostly in New York City. I mean, that's just the way it is. There are some deep-pocketed donors in the Buffalo area, and maybe some in Skinny Atlas, and a couple in the capital region. But would you be able, do you think, to raise the money? And also, have you ever run a party organization before?
I think the first question is rather easily answered. And people give and support and donate to platforms, positions, and organizations they can believe in. And the way you believe in something is that there is a plan, a business plan, that says how the organization is going to function and what its deliverables are going to be. Because let's face it, if you're passionate about a particular ideal or ideological belief, you're going to donate, and that's great, and that certainly makes up a portion of it. But it's not until you see a winning organization are you really going to ante up. And I don't care whether you live in Manhattan or you live in Buffalo, or whether you live up in St. Lawrence or you live out on the island. You are not going to invest in something unless you can believe in it. The way you believe in it is seeing deliverables or seeing a plan that will lead to those deliverables. And so regardless of where the chairman lives, the issue is the organization one that people can believe in and invest in? So I don't consider the issue of whether or not fundraising can be accomplished as the important part. The first part is, what's your business plan? What's your deliverable? Are you willing to be measured in that? And if you are, stating that clearly to people who would be inclined to support the organization. So that I don't think is really going to be the issue. I think the other thing is that people don't appropriately understand that there is a great deal of support individually and collectively, both boots on the ground and finances throughout New York State for the positions that Republicans typically take, and the importance we put on particular issues. That's what generates enthusiasm, interest, energy, and dollars. And so I think that is, I understand the question. It's a good one. But I don't think that's a fundamental issue as to who should be the chairman. And have you actually run a party? I know you're county executive, obviously. Have you been a county chairman? Right. No, I've not been a county chairman. I'm a member of the county committee. I'm a member of a town committee. I know what it's like to get out there and pass petitions and generate enthusiasm in local organizations and support local, whether it be the county committee or a city committee, where really the energy and the work needs to take place. So I think that's another key component. You need to understand where the real heavy lifting takes place. That's on the local county and city committees, and they need to be strong and develop and grow. So that's a key part. I'm glad you brought that up. And what's your timeline on this? I know that actually there will not be an election until after the primary, and these are governed by party rules. We should mention this is not an actual election where people come out. It's not a public election. It's an inside the party election. Will you be announcing your candidacy at some point? Well, once I complete my due diligence, my analysis of people's beliefs and positions and with regard to me potentially being their chairman, then I absolutely will announce the results of that analysis and proceed accordingly. And I hope to bring that to a conclusion relatively soon. I've been very encouraged by the responses I have received initially. And I need some more. There's some more bases I need to touch, and I'll do that and ask and answer very important questions that will be posed to me, and then I'll go forward from there. But it is a mid to late September time frame that the election would have to take place.
Okay. Well, County Executive Edwards, we will be looking for that announcement, and I want to thank you very much for joining us. It is good to see you.
Good to see you, Liz. I look forward to spending some time with you in Albany soon and spend some more time on Capitol tonight. Thank you.
Me too. Thanks.